Hi there, I'm Michaela Lonning. I'm going to give you a tool in this video to work with shame, toxic shame, the kind of shame that makes you feel totally worthless, totally hopeless, like there's something fundamentally wrong with you. And I just want to say I work with shame a lot, and I think it is among the most powerfully painful emotions, if not the most painful emotion. And my guess is you know exactly the feeling I'm talking about when I say the word shame. For you, it might hit as like, often it's like a feeling in people's, here I'll stand so you can see, like kind of in their solar plexus. Like that. And there are different ways that shame plays out. It often has a very, very powerful impact on the body, and it takes over your thinking. And so you start thinking that there's something wrong with you, and you start feeling often depressed, shut down, and possibly you might feel an inclination to strike out at others. You might get very irritable and angry. So different ways that shame plays out. And I want to give you one way to think about it, because one thing that shame does is it takes over your thinking, and it has a story that goes along with it, and it's a really powerful story. And the powerful story is that there's something wrong with you. I want to give you another story to consider for part of what I know is often going on with shame, and that is that it's become a habit for your body to go into shame because it made sense and it worked to some extent for you to do that when you were little. And so let me give you an example. Let's say that you had a parent that was very tired, very preoccupied, had long work days, had a lot of relationship stress, whatever it was. And so you would go to show them some cool drawing that you'd made at school, and they would say, "I don't want to see that right now." They'd be very sharp. And if you have this shame habit, you may have had an encounter like this or some other kind of encounter, but something where you wanted to connect and you were, your desire to connect was rejected in that moment. Where you would have gone as a kid, where we go as kids is we shut down most often. So we back off, and often our heads go down. We kind of feel like hiding. That's like the shame feeling that you're still struggling with these days. Now, that shame feeling, think again about a child that goes to their parent with a drawing. Picture a kid you know, or a kid that, just picture a kid who goes to their parent with a drawing, and the parent goes, "I don't want to see that right now." And imagine how you'd feel about that interaction, seeing it as an outside observer. Is that kid shameful? Is that kid wrong? Chances are if that kid goes through that scenario often enough, they will grow up feeling like there's something wrong with them. They will grow up feeling like they're unlovable. Nothing to do with who they are. Everything to do with a habit, though, that they form, where they learn to almost hide before they reach out to somebody else. Makes relationships very difficult, and it really affects your self-image. And so it's kind of a two-tool video, because the first is to think about it and to realize that very often shame, it starts when we're little, and it's nothing to do with who we are. So even though your brain is making a value judgment that there's something wrong with you, there's not. And if you feel ashamed about a behavior, that's something that can be dealt with. But you're not shameful as a person. This is almost always partially a habit that comes up when we get disconnected from people when we're little, usually through no fault of our own. The second tool is a little bit more specifically something that you can actually do to start disrupting that habit. What's happening partly is that your body, your mind, your nervous system, they have a habit of, it might be when you want to connect, or when you're anticipating rejection from somebody, or when you've had an interaction that you're not sure how to parse, or you feel cut off somehow. Your body and your mind are likely going back into that habit of retreat and withdrawal, and of, there's something wrong with me. So I want you to notice what happens when you feel shame in your body. If you were to follow that impulse and really feel what your body does, and even exaggerate it a little bit. So let's see, I'm going to sense into what a shame feeling feels like. And for me, it would come with a head duck. It would come with a desire to retreat. It certainly comes with an avoidance of eye contact. So notice what those components are for you. This is pretty universal, and the gestures that go with it are actually pretty universal too. Here's what I want you to try, is disrupt the habit in some mild way with your body. So one of the most common ones, and one of the easiest ones to do, is part of what's happening is you're crumbling. And if you can just lengthen your spine just a little tiny bit, that might actually change the feeling of shame. Because shame is so bodily. We feel it in such a core, visceral way. Our body changes posture. So another thing that you might do is when you're starting to feel that shame, actually look the person that you're with in the eye, because it tends to make it very difficult for us to connect with somebody else. And so look at some way that you can just disrupt that habit. And even if you can just start noticing, oh, this is that shame thing coming up, this may be a habit. This may not actually mean that I'm unlovable, but it may be a habit that my body and my mind have learned. That's going to give you a much, much different perspective, where then you can look at it like some of my clients will say, I had a shame attack the other day. Having a shame attack is different from realizing that you're unlovable and unworthy. You start noticing it as a thing that comes over you, and that is much, much, much more workable to say I had a shame attack than I had a revelation again that I'm unworthy. Those are two different things. You're having shame attacks. You're not unworthy. No revelation involved. All right. So it's actually maybe 3 tools in one video, and I hope this was clear. If you like it, please press like and comment if there is some way that this resonates with you or something that's useful, or you've got another question or something else that comes up around this. Thank you.